Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? On this episode of Fearlessly Made You, I am beyond excited and honored to have not only someone that I consider a friend, but truly someone that is endeared and admired within the community, Madrina Ciano. Madrina is a community volunteer, a community ambassador, and as much as I would love to tell you all the amazing things that Madrina does, I am not going to do it enough service as Madrina would herself. So first things first, welcome to Fearlessly Made You, Madrina.
So thrilled and honored to be here today, Kristie. Thank you for having me. And it's just great to be included in the lineup of stellar guests that you regularly have on your show.
You are a doll. I appreciate you so much, girl. So why don't you share? So we've got our Fearlessly Made You crew. They are excited. I am absolutely certain to hear more about you. So I would love to know just the things that I see you do in the community are just powerful. And I think one of the things I love that you say is I'm here to serve. And that is such a beautiful place to be in your life because you're able to just give your heart into everything you do. How did you get there? How did you get into the space where you're able to really serve and just give of yourself?
Well, it is a real blessing to do that because there's a lot of women that work full time that would love to do what I do, but can't afford it or don't have the ability. So first and foremost, I'm very thankful to my husband that he supports me and allows me to serve my community, which he will attest to is 8 days a week, 25 hours a day, and he would love for me to scale back. But when I did have a full-time job, I just engrossed myself in the community. I served on one board that led to 5 boards.
Of course.
I threw one community event for Pensacola Little Theater called Cabaret, and that led into many other events. And so now 10 or 15 years later, I've probably touched 15 different nonprofits and served on 5 or 6 boards and named events and created events and hosted events. And I do it all as a community volunteer because I feel like my true calling is to serve, to support and serve and uplift nonprofits.
I love that. There is such, first of all, thank you, because I think there's such honesty and vulnerability in you sharing kind of where you started and where you are now. Mm-hmm. And for each of you in the Fearlessly Made You crew, you know, we always talk about this. It's all about standing up for what is important to you. Because I think too many times we see, well, there's a need. I'm sure someone will get to that. And Madrina's like, nope, I'm the someone.
If not me, then who?
Exactly.
Why not me?
Why not you? I just had that conversation with someone. I was like, why not you?
Why not?
And so I would love to know that passion for serving the community. Has that always been there? Has that grown over time? Where did that come from?
Well, a couple of things, actually. My mother actually embedded that or instilled that in me as a young child. We would walk the streets of Waikiki, in Chinatown in Honolulu, and we would, first we would hit the grocery stores to get day-old bread or just different expired food that was still edible, and we would deliver it to the streets and give it to the homeless. And so even as a young girl, like I would travel through Honolulu. The city bus is an accepted way of transportation. And I would travel through the city for different reasons. And I would know the homeless people by name. And they would come, hey, Madrina. And I'd say, hey, Rudy. And I would remember my mother would bring them home. And we would bathe them and feed them and dress them. So as a young child, my mother instilled that in me and given back. But also there are some unusual family dynamics in my family with drug addiction and mental health instability and just other things that I coped with as the baby of the family that I sort of lived through. So when you have an addict in your family, it's not just him or your mom or dad, it affects the entire family.
Absolutely.
When someone suffers from great depression and low self-esteem, it affects the entire family. Absolutely. So unfortunately or fortunately, I have a lot of these little elements or traits in my family. And so when I see people that are hurting, I want to help.
Yeah.
And so just from my roots of being from Hawaii, which the Aloha Spirit, from the community service that my mother put in me, and then just some of the imbalance that we also had led me to want to help with mental illness, with addiction, and just different things.
I love that. I think there's such power in utilizing where you've come from and what that looks like for you. And I think there are a lot of us and a lot of people who don't know how to do that. So I think one of the things that you shared is it's not something that has impeded you, but only propelled you forward. And I would love to kind of tap into that even more. So have there been points, though, where maybe it was a struggle as you were, I'm sure throughout life, things are not always easy, as we all know, but were there points where you found yourself kind of struggling and thinking about, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot for me to think about and to try and bring forward into a positive way, but it's a lot. Did you have those moments?
It just sort of happened over time, and 1 month and 1 year and one project and one nonprofit at a time. But, you know, for those of you that may not be familiar with my story, I left home when I'm 16 years old, and there's a reason why a 16-year-old leaves home. It's not because everything's great. And at that time, I thought, oh, I was just in love and I'm following my boyfriend.
Yeah.
I later learned in life that, you know, that's not necessarily a normal protocol. Most 16-year-olds don't up and leave home with a 20-year-old and then start life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had some struggles earlier on. I dropped out of high school. I dealt it, smelt it, felt it, smoked it, rolled it, you name it. I've done all that. I had a little run-in with the law as a juvenile, just being stupid. I was a runaway from home. I'd lived with an older man. And so, sort of from the school of hard knocks, that I experienced myself, I got to see up close the underbelly, the dark side of society. And you see where people are stuck in perpetual cycles of trauma, abuse, mental illness, and all of that. And even though I kind of got off course and I dabbled a little bit in some of the dark things or the rougher ways of life, you know, running the streets and stuff, I always knew deep inside that was not for me. You are better than this. You have a calling on your life. You have a greater purpose. You know better than this, Madrina. So after I goofed off for a little while, I took a 1-year sabbatical from high school. I went back to high school. I got a job. I became a dependent and well-rounded, independent woman that didn't need a man. But I never lost sight of the fact of my hurting siblings.
Yeah, absolutely.
With drug addiction, my hurting siblings that battled mental illness. And when you suffer from depression, it can be debilitating. You can't even get out of bed to achieve.
Absolutely.
You know, and so I think just being the baby of 6 children, witnessing all of that, and then a little bit kind of falling down, following that path of destruction, and then being so blessed to snap out of it. I just really felt like I had a greater calling.
Absolutely.
And I actually had to move from Hawaii to Florida, where we are now, to break a cycle, to get away from those friends, to get out of that lifestyle, to get away from things that were surrounding us. And so it came from moving from Hawaii to the mainland, to the big state of Florida, getting a job, engrossing myself in the community, serving on one board that led to other opportunities. And then over time, I got to be this great community servant and ambassador, which, you know, now it kind of looks like, oh, she just shows up for all the magazine photos. They don't see the weeks and months behind the scenes where we're meeting and talking and planning. And so now, because I made it out. Because I have a very different yet prosperous story than my 5 siblings, I feel that to whom much is given, much is required.
I love that.
And so that's why I give.
So breaking that down even more, Madrina, one of the cool things, and the Fearlessly Made You crew knows this, but we'll share with you as well, there's something really beautiful that I love about getting to learn more about people's stories. And there's a power and a purposefulness in it. And one of the things we always talk about on Fearlessly Made You is really leaning into people who really emulate what it means to be fearlessly made, which is not being without fear, but not allowing fear to own you. And you truly so Madrina and I had a chance to hang out at Pensacola Little Theater. It was one of the big events this year, and we've connected before, but really got a chance to just talk. And one of the things that struck me so much was there's a like-mindedness that happens with people who have been through things, and you use those stories to help others. And that is what, and it gives me little chills like up my shoulders. I'm thinking about that.
I'm choked up the whole time I'm talking. I'm choked up because it takes a lot.
It does.
To break a cycle.
It does.
To make sure you either are perceived confident, even if you don't have confidence at time.
Absolutely.
You can fake it.
Yeah.
And then ultimately you become confident. But it takes a lot to break a cycle, not know, but proceed. To be fearful, but to go anyway.
Yes.
To not know, but to figure it out.
Yep.
It takes a lot of courage to do those things.
And you unveiling that about yourself, and to your point, I'm sure, like you said, people just think I just show up. I love the honesty that you're sharing, because I knew you didn't show up. Like, anyone that knows anything about the work it takes to give of yourself so openly and honestly, and to have these conversations, shame on you forever at any point in time thinking Madrina just shows up. Just gonna throw that out there. But also, I think what you are talking about, your story and breaking the cycle, there are so many of us right now that I think are living that story and trying to understand, for some of us, trying to figure out how to break the cycle, for others caught in the cycle. And what you are able to talk through is, this wasn't today's the day, like I just figured it out. You went through it. You were in the cycle and you pulled yourself out of the cycle, because I love that statement. You are more than this. And I don't think we tell ourselves that enough, guys. Like, I think we have to lean into that. It really is the premise of Fearlessly Made You, of you are so much better than where you put yourself or where you allow things to happen. Like, your journey doesn't have to be all the things that happen to you.
Your circumstances do not need to dictate who you are today or where you could be in the future.
I
you know,
love
and
that.
I just feel like if I can do it, anyone can do it. I was a 16-year-old high school dropout. I smoked some crystal meth. I stole from some stores. I was in a tumultuous relationship. I was running the streets. I mean, just roughneck, you know, just running the streets. But that wasn't always my upbringing. I knew better. I was, you know, from middle class. My father was in the military. We had a decent life, a very good life, but we just had some dysfunction as well. But I always felt like there was a greater calling for me. And so if I were listening to the whispers, I had to obey them. And so when I had that pulling on my gut to do different things and to serve over here and help the abused and to do this, you must obey those whispers. And I find that when I listen to the whispers and obey, not only do tremendous doors open, but those doors begot other doors who lead to other doors. And so now today I'm here on Kristie Tobias's podcast. And once upon a time, I was just a little girl running the streets.
Well, and I love that you say that, because you also have your own show.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want everyone to know a little more about that show, because you, like you said, the vulnerability and honesty of coming from where you are and being where you are now, everyone has a journey. Like, we all have things that we're going through. And you being able to have your own show, your own calling, and leaning into that purpose is just so powerful. And that's actually where I first saw you. I don't think I ever told you that. I first saw you on Rolling with Madrina. I was flipping through, I think it was like it may have been like when I first moved to Pensacola, like that first week I was here. And I was just like, it was before all the cable and all of that stuff. And I was like, what is this? Like, this is kind of, and it's your presence. It's that presence of, I am here and I am owning being here. And I want you to as well. So I think one of the things that I love, and I want you to kind of talk a little bit more about this, when we talk about being fearlessly made, we talk about not allowing that fear to own you, but you owning your journey. And you've owned your journey in so many places in the community, but also with your show. So I want to learn more about how you got your show.
So that was just such a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like if you listen to the whispers, and I also have another little saying that I say is, Jesus is my homie.
Yes, girl.
You know,
Ooh,
like people see me or they just don't know. They don't really understand the depths of my spirituality as far as leaning on Jesus, my homie. I might not go to church every Sunday, and I might not be reverent, and I might not do confessionals, but I speak to God and Jesus every day, and I lean on that faith, because you know, boss lady, as much as I know, that it is a constant hustle to do what we do, to be where we're at, to achieve what we do. And it's easy to listen to the naysayers. It's easy to give in to the critics. But if you stay in your lane and you stay the course and you do you, boo.
Yes, girl.
Blessings will fall from the sky. And that's what happened. Blab TV called me and said, you know, Madrina, we see what you're doing in the community with so many different nonprofits. We would like to give you a television show to highlight the work that the nonprofits in our area that are doing. And I said, I would love that. So now 2 years later, I've got so many different nonprofits. It's a weekly show on 8:30 on Thursdays on Blab TV called Rolling with Madrina, and it's about the community and all the great works that light bringers offer to the community.
Light bringers. we're going to coin that phrase from Madrina. Thus saith Madrina, light bringers. I love that. So I think one of the cool things about it is it brings everything back full circle for you, right?
Does.
And it pulls it out there and you're like, let's talk about it. Let's put everything here. So as you're doing that, one of the things that pops into my head is there's probably so many people out there, whether they're watching or people that you've connected with or have made an impact with, that are saying, how can I get there? And it's not so much necessarily having their own show, but just moving out of the cycle of destruction, moving into a space of purpose. And if you were to give people advice or guidance on how to, like I call it, living your fearless existence, what advice would you give people?
To believe in yourself.
I love that.
Self-belief trumps everything. If you don't have self-belief in yourself, you're going to be afraid of life. You're going to be afraid of your partner. You're going to be afraid of your coworkers, afraid of your boss. You're going to be afraid to take chances. You're going to be afraid. And fear is debilitating. Mm-hmm. So to live a fearlessly made you means to have the fear but go anyway.
Yep.
I was asked to fly with the Blue Angels as a key influencer, and I'm so honored to do that in 2018 or 2019, and I flew with the Blue Angels and pulled 6 Gs, and I also left with 6 barf bags.
Oh,
But I lived to tell the story,
Yeah.
and people say to me, oh, I couldn't do that, I'd be afraid. If the Blue Angels call you, and less than 1% of people in the world get to ride along with the Blue Angels, are you going to say no?
Right.
You're going to go despite your fear.
Yep.
Yeah, I had worry, I had fear, but I knew I would survive. And that's just anything in life. I might not know how to do this project, but I can figure it out and I'm going to make it happen. So I just think that if you have self-belief, it will propel you in so many different arenas in your life, is having self-confidence. That would be my number one choice. And if you don't have it, how to get it, fake it till you make it. Start small.
It's true.
So, I don't know how to, I've never learned, I've never taken aerobics before. Go do it and see how you do. Then you're going to feel like, hey, I can do that. Mm-hmm. I've never done this before. Well, then go try it. The more things you do and conquer, the more confident you're going to become. Everything I do today, I never even knew how to do before. I never had to sit in a board meeting. I didn't know what minutes were. I didn't even know how to second a motion or move to approve. I never done a golf tournament. Never done a sit-down dinner for 600 people. I've never done a dinner at Wahoo Stadium. But that doesn't mean I can't. Mm-hmm. I just put one foot in front of the other, and one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, whatever. And the next thing you know, you're there and you did it. And you could say, look at me.
Yeah, I love it, little snap.
And that's how you build that confidence.
Yes, girl. What motivates you? What continues to motivate you and inspire you to just keep moving and growing people in the community and helping serve the community? What keeps motivating you?
To take a small idea that's just an idea and go through weeks and months of planning and meeting and ideas and visions and frustration and everything else that goes with it. And then seeing this final result that's amazing, that yielded a lot of money for a nonprofit, that the community enjoyed. That's what motivates me.
Oh, I love it. Have you found, as you've been serving the community, I don't know anyone that doesn't know who you are. And I love your approach to everything is just you love to serve. Have you found yourself in spaces, and we've started to kind of touch on this, but where you're just kind of like, today I would like to not serve. Today I would like to just kind of sit back and breathe. And I asked that question because a lot of conversations that I've been having lately are around the word around balance and what that looks like, because it is different for everyone.
What does it look like, Kristie?
Girl,
you tell me what balance. Have you found balance? I know that big work-life balance was a thing, but it doesn't exist.
It does not. And that was a conversation I was having recently with someone. I was like, it's literally the 5 minutes in the day where you sit still and you just breathe. It's not something so big, but I think we have to figure out what that means. And so I'm curious for you, what does it mean? What does it look like for you?
I don't know what balance means. I'm a workaholic and I love fruition. I love the results. So, like I said, I love an action that produces a result. Yep. And to me, that's the addiction that I have, is to take it from an idea to a product. My husband would love to see me relax more and do less, but I don't. He's always like, that's the last project. Don't you take on another project? And then I'll have coffee with someone. I'm like, oh, let's do this. Yes. Let's do that fundraiser. And so I do go to Hawaii once a year, which is my home, which is where I renew my spirit and my soul. And as we call that, mana, M-A-N-A, mana is your power and your juju. So I go home to my people. I let my phone go. I let my makeup go. I let my hair go. And I'm just in T-shirts and flip-flops with my friends. And I let everything go that one time a year.
I love that.
And the rest of the year, I'm working like a dog.
And I think that's the thing that we all have to listen to. And I've talked about this over and over again. So you guys are quite familiar, but every single person has a different perspective on that, which is why I love asking the question, because it should look different.
Yeah.
Every single person has a different. I don't do well sitting still.
Right.
So that 5 minutes for me is about it. I'm like, we're good. Like that 5 minutes, we're good. But to your point, I love that you have that annual, it's your tradition. Yeah. Every year.
My little cheat or my shameless indulgence is Real Housewives from any city.
Bless it. You and my sister both. Yeah, she will be like, did you watch this one? I was like, I've just recently. So I have a girlfriend. I used to compete in pageants, and I have a girlfriend that competed in pageants. So you're so cute. I appreciate you. I just say funny and fantastic. I appreciate you. You know the Real Housewives of New York, the newest one that had Ebony Williams on it?
Yeah.
She and I competed in pageants together in North Carolina. Love her.
How about that?
I know.
Small world.
So I started watching Real Housewives because she was on it, and I was like, oh, this is what, and it's gets you, like it pulls you in.
I really watch it a lot for the fashion, you know, and some of the just trends and whatnot.
Oh, yes.
And then it also reminds me, I mean, I think that the groups of women can be two things. They can be quite powerful and empowering, and groups of women can really get stuff done.
Yes, amen to that.
But sometimes if you don't have the right mix of women, you can get some crazy. It can just get crazy sometimes with women. And so when I watch the Real Housewives, I go, wow, all cities, very wealthy, they're living in mansions, and they're still dealing with the same basic social issues that the rest of us are.
Yes.
So it reminds me it's not just me.
I love that you say that. I think sometimes we put people on pedestals, put things on pedestals, and well, that's their life. Kind of like you were saying earlier about people seeing, oh, she just shows up, and she's like, no, there's a lot of work and a lot of stuff we are all
and that's
dealing
one thing, Kristie, you said that. I just want people to know, like I have some friends that people will ask them, Madrina's your friend. Does she clean her own house? Does she do her own laundry? And I'm like, I don't even know where they get this stuff from. Yes, I do all of that. I cook. I'm a housewife. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. I do all the normal things that any housewife would do. But just because you see me showing up at events and being in a magazine, it doesn't take away from Madrina. I always refer to myself as Drina from the block.
I love it.
I mean, I still get up. I walk my dog. I mean, I have the same lifestyle anyone else does. And just because you see me now as the Maserati Pensacola ambassador and they pay me to drive one of their beautiful Maserati Ghiblis, or you see me next to Quint Studer or Christy Tobias, or you see me doing these glamorous things, there is a lot of work that goes into it, and I'm still just a normal person who puts her pants on one leg at a time that is no better, higher, or less than anyone else.
I love it.
My mission and my journey is just more public than some people.
I like that you put it that way, because it's so true. And there is such a purposefulness in that. And not everyone was meant to do all the things. And so I love that where your purposefulness is, like you were saying before, you've leaned into it because you knew you were made for more. More than where you were, and now you're able to see that to fruition, which I love. So Madrina, my final thought for you, and again, first of all, truly an honor and blessing to have you, primarily because I love your story. I love your honesty and your ability to be vulnerable with us, because I think people need to hear that and feel that connection with you. But I also think there is just such value you bring to me, to our community, to everyone. So if there was maybe one thing that you want to make sure our Fearlessly Made You crew knew, one little nugget of wisdom, kind of a lasting statement, what would that be?
To cling to God. My faith is really what's gotten me through, because in these times, the pandemic, the politics, everything, it can be a struggle. And one thing that keeps me grounded is my faith. I wouldn't say that I'm religious. I would say that I'm spiritual. I can say that I pray from my balcony. I can pray under my breath all day. Thank you, God, for your protection. Thank you, Lord, for great weather today for this golf tournament. Thank you, Lord, for blessing Kristie to have me here. I mean, just all day long, I just talk to God like He's just my confidant or my counselor or my advisor. And so for me, what has helped me through the toughest times has been my faith, and that's what I would recommend for others.
I love it. And that is very near and dear to my heart as well, because my faith is so important. So I love that we share that.
Good.
And again, Madrina, truly an honor, a blessing. Thank you so much for being on Fearlessly Made You. We so appreciate you. And guys, as usual, make sure you stay tuned and listen in to the next episode of Fearlessly Made You.